This is a presentation on the Amish microculture by Cheryl Unger, Sarah Losi, and Kyle McGrother. The history of the Amish co-culture goes all the way back to the Christian Protestant Reformation in Europe in the early to mid 15th century, centered in the south of modern day Germany, which was at that time still the Holy Roman Empire. History is complicated, and so is everything Protestant. So with that in mind, a very brief evolutionary history of Protestantism and the Amish branch of Christianity. Next slide, please. It's the turn of the 15th century and literacy is up. Thanks, Gutenberg. So a lot more people could read the Bible for themselves, and many were coming to the same conclusion, that the Catholic Church and the papacy had grown too worldly. Some wanted to argue over how to fix the church, and others just wanted to leave first and argue. Among the latter were the Anabaptists, a fairly anarcho-communistic group who espoused the idea of rebaptism, just like it says in their name, in Greek. In a sense, if you could read your own Bible, then you could be your own priest, and then an elaborate church structure was no longer necessary. Simple. Each subsequent branching into its various denominations, Zwinglian, Hutterite, Bruderhof, Brethren, Mennonite, Amish, was basically a disagreement on finer and finer distinctions of how to be a proper Christian. Next slide. Per the excellent website amishamerica.com, the Anabaptists were the predecessors to the Amish, Mennonites, and a number of other Christian groups. The Anabaptists were a religious group which developed a set of beliefs counter to the dominant Catholic Church. Anabaptist beliefs also set them apart from Protestant Reformation. One crucial element of these beliefs was that of believer's baptism, which is that a church member must have chosen the faith for themselves and been baptized as a consenting adult. The other is that of non-resistance. This oftentimes is seen as pacifism, i.e. a wholesale rejection of violence or war, but it's really more like passive or nonviolent resistance. See also Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and mid-20th century US civil rights movement for some examples. The Amish base this on the ideas found in the Sermon on the Mount by Jesus in the New Testament of the Bible. To one who strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also, and as you wish that others would do to you, do so to them. Next slide, please. Generally, when people today in the US think of the Amish, it's usually an image of one of the more conservative fundamentalist communities, such as Old Order Amish and the so-called Pennsylvania Dutch. Mennonite Amish communities are clustered around the south and east side of the Great Lakes, primarily in the US, but also in Canada. The densest populations of them are in Ohio and Pennsylvania, because in the early to mid 17th century, many sought refuge from religious persecution at home in William Penn's new land in North America. Next slide, please. Since they came from and continued to live in relatively isolated communities, both by geography and intent, the Amish continued to speak various forms of German for quite a while. Anti-German sentiment in the early to mid 20th century caused most communities to quit speaking German in public or altogether. The most well-known persistent variety today is known as Pennsylvania Dutch, Dutch coming from the German language endonym Deutsch. Now, today, most Mennonite Amish communities speak at least English. Many still use High German as their liturgical language, and a few still speak Pennsylvania Dutch as a private language of the home, which, for the Amish, helps to further separate themselves from the macroculture, which is their goal in all things. All right, Cheryl?
Just like any other culture, the Amish have a few stereotypes of their own. The all-American women who both wear head covers and dresses are Amish, that Amish marriages are arranged, that they don't use electricity or technology, or that all Amish are farmers. According to 10 Amish myths debunked, published on November 8th, 2021, the Amish do not have electricity running into their homes like the average American. However, most families and businesses do have generators, which they use to power various appliances or devices in their homes. Here I included an image of the Amish transportation. Unlike the traditional way of transportation, such as a bus, train, or a car, the Amish use horse-drawn travel. A few Amish people will use a tractor as a form of transportation, but most do not. And here on the bottom right is a traditional Amish home, and you can see that there is no modern technology or devices like iPads or any current form of technology. Amish people believe that the harder you work and the more you dedicate your time to perfecting your craft, the closer you will be to God. So, working is a form of enjoyable entertainment for the Amish. They also designed and constructed their own dolls without faces because they believe that we are all alike in the eyes of God. And here on the left is a picture of their traditional Amish dolls without faces. And here on the right is a family grazing through their fields.
All right, and then some symbols that are popular in the Amish communities are hex signs. Hex signs are famous on the custom-made barns. These barns are usually put up with the help of the whole community all in one day. So the men will put in the work and then the women will come together and make three big meals while the kids perform more menial tasks. And then they paint these hex signs to warn off bad spirits, but some have more specific meanings. A 4 or 5 pointed star means good luck. An 8 pointed star means fertility and abundance. 2 goldfinches, like this one right here, means to conjure love and happiness in marriage. And 16 point star brings prosperity. And oaks and acorns symbolize strength. Next slide, please. And then another symbol they have are quilts. They are popular amongst tourists and collectors. And then women get together at quilting bees, which reflects the values of community and hard work among the women. They consider their quilts to be very fancy and they take pride in them. And so if you go to an Amish community that welcomes visitors, you will typically see quilts for sale. Next slide, please. Some of the values of the Amish are humility, family, community, farming, hard work, separation from the world, and pacifism. They believe in the literal word of God. So humility and modesty is at the heart of the Amish way of life. They also avoid using tools to farm because they prefer to put in the hard work, like Cheryl said. And then next slide. Behavior norms among the Amish, they have very strict rules like avoiding technology because they see it as a link to temptation, which becomes detrimental for the community and family life, as well as they dress in like plain dress clothes, usually black and white, and it's usually self-made clothing. And I thought the women's clothing is very interesting. They do not cut their hair, but they always wear it in a bun or braids and then cover it with a bonnet. They wear long full dresses with capes, black stocking and shoes, and they're not allowed to wear jewelry of any kind. And men can't cut their beards, or they shouldn't cut their beards, but they should not have a mustache. So they also have very strict gender roles, which means so women are responsible for matters of the home, like cooking and cleaning, gardening, and children, while the men are seen as the spiritual head of household, meaning they make decisions for the family. And self-discipline, this goes hand in hand with the hard work members of the community are expected to perform. And also they do not punish members, and there is no jail in the Amish community. You just get shunned from the community, which can be really harmful if that is the only way of life that you've known. And I've got most of this information off of Britannica online. And that's it. Thank you.